Are we settled?
Yeah.
I think we're settled.
Does everyone's hair look good? Mine looks like a rat's nest.
But somehow it works. Bitch!
Welcome to the Unimaginary Friendcast. This is week 3 of our COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. We're still podcasting from a distance. We have David in the studio west. We're in studio east here. Is that right?
That's
east
correct.
and west? All right.
That's correct.
But let's introduce ourselves and get this party started.
I am Nathan Von Edmondson.
I'm Aaron Marie, Betty Davis Jr.
And I'm DavidMonstar.com.
Truly a monster.
I want to comment on some things that are happening in the frame right now. So if you're listening to this podcast like you normally would, please know that this is also video recorded. So please go to our Facebook page, Unimaginary Friend, and watch it on video because we're going to be doing some visual things today. We have a special guest that will be joining us. David is wearing a mask with fangs. Can you explain what's going on there?
I just want to keep everyone safe. This is what I wear to make everyone feel safe. Walking around the supermarket. Excuse me, do you know where the avocados are?
And you got a cat drinking a martini behind you.
I know, he's beautiful.
Nathan here, you got an Urban Village shirt on. Can you explain what that is?
So,
Oh, man.
Aaron's brother, my brother-in-law, is the head chef at Urban Village in Philadelphia. So if you are in Philadelphia, they are still doing takeout and delivery, I imagine.
Yeah, they're brewing beer, pizzas. And I have on a shirt from one of my favorite shows of all time.
What is it?
It's the Golden
never heard of
Girls.
All 4 faces of the women on there. It says, "Thank you for being a friend" at the bottom.
Shout out to my favorite ladies out there.
We're interrupting this program with breaking news, bitch.
So I want to hear how everyone's doing in quarantine. We'll do some news in just a second, but I just want to tease what this episode is because we're pretty excited about it. We have a special guest that's joining us from Huntsville, Alabama.
What?
Someone from Alabama?
Did he vote for well, I'll ask him when he comes on if he voted for the sexual predator, but we'll find out.
I know the answer, but you can ask him. Joe DiNoto is his name. He will be joining us shortly. He's part of the reason why we wanted to videotape this because he has some very unique talents he's going to be sharing with us.
Ooh. So it's going to be that kind of a show. All right.
For those of you listening through audio, we'll talk through what you're seeing.
We'll describe
But
in graphic detail.
I'm going to give him a proper introduction in a minute, but just a quick teaser. He's a data scientist. He's a professional juggler.
Oh, my God.
And he was also an active member of Bernie Sanders' campaign. So we have a lot to talk about. I think the data side of COVID will be interesting to get into. We're going to see him juggle. It's going to be awesome. But first, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good. I have the best news of all, actually.
Lead, then.
Well, as you guys know, the world conspired against me during this COVID time, and I had the worst time of all. The worst of all hit me.
What happened?
Because the beaches were closed. It was in the news. It was on every news source how it affected me.
And some of you,
yeah.
some of the listeners might not know that you live on the beach.
And they closed the beaches, which is the worst. We can all agree that's the worst thing that happened through this entire quarantine, right? Correct? Right. Yeah. Yeah, they're nodding. Yeah. So basically the best news happened, and I'm breaking it here with you guys, is I have been working out on the beach all week.
Yeah, I thought it was closed.
Yeah. Fuck you. Fuck you, humans. I do what I want. Fuck you. That's what I have to say. I've been actually working out close to my house, so everybody just kind of looks at me and gives me the thumbs up. I'm assuming they're giving me the thumbs up because of my rockin' abs, but go ahead. Yeah, what were you gonna ask?
I was just saying that's such a great message for everyone during these difficult times.
Yeah, that you humans can't hold me down.
Good.
Right?
So breaking the law. At least you're wearing a mask. The CDC now recommends masks.
Nobody is within, I'd say, 500 feet of me. The police helicopters have gone by, give me the thumbs up.
Aaron?
I have lots of news.
Uh-oh.
We went to the grocery store I went to the grocery store for the first time in probably 2 weeks yesterday.
You did? Wow.
It's pretty intense. But to pass the time, I just want to kind of share a list of the things that we've been doing. One is, I don't know why, this was my idea. And if you know me, you'll think this is a little out of character.
It's a little out of character.
It started as a joke and almost a threat. And then it turned into something real, and now it's happening. Do you want to guess?
Does it have anything to do with a big basket that a person could fit into?
No, that's a great guess, though. I'm just going to tell you, we're going to watch all 9 of the Fast and the Furious movies in order.
Wait, why do you want to torture yourself?
That's a great question. We watched the first one last night, which was pretty bad, and the first 20 minutes of the second one wasn't terrible, but that's where we are so far. But make sure to report back with this breaking news.
I want to know how you get through it, because one time I was watching TV and then I was like, what is going on? This is the worst movie. Like, I thought it was a movie from the 80s or something. And then I found out it was one of the Fast and Furious movies. They are the worst movies ever made. How are you doing it?
We're still in the early stages, but like I said, it started as a joke and then it somehow happened. And we just finished Tiger King, so it seemed like a logical progression.
I think she saw a picture of Paul Walker and his piercing blue eyes and decided she wanted to watch all of his films.
Oh no, that's so sad. He's dead.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, are you jacking off?
No.
That's what it looks like. We can see your hand down there. Oh my God. Oh.
I'll keep my hands up here the whole time. A few more things. We're going on long bike rides, which has been nice because there's no traffic.
The news I'll report is we decided to re-release Total Trip Domination this week.
Oh, wow.
So today we're releasing episode 1. We're going to do an episode every day for this week and through all 7 episodes through Saturday. So you can go to my friend on Instagram or Facebook and watch those videos.
We decided to do that because people can't travel anymore. And the whole point of that travel show was that fans can request where the hosts go and travel for them. So,
yeah, and travel virtually.
Yeah, so it's kind of perfect for what's happening now.
Yeah, today's episode is Mexico City. This is for Sunday, April 5th. And then we go to a whole bunch of awesome places after that as well. Mexico City is awesome as well.
And I just want to tease episode 4. David will have a really fun performance.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, no. I don't think so. I don't think so. Wait, before we go on, I have a very important question.
Yeah.
Nathan, how are you dealing with the Fast and Furious movies?
I realized I didn't see the first one, and I maybe saw half of it, so that's kind of interesting. But then I didn't see any of them until part 5. So they're actually, I don't know, the second one is directed by John Singleton, which I was surprised because he's a pretty accomplished director, and Eva Mendes is in it.
Oh, wow.
Tyrese, yeah, he just kind of like
He's a
listens.
flawless man.
Anyway, so I think they're going to be stupidly fun, at least this one until we get to 5.
Guys, I think Joe is calling in, so let's pause this really quick, and we'll get Joe DiNoto here.
Okay.
There he is.
Oh my gosh, he's here.
The black hole of knowledge.
We can see a photo of him.
Give him some time to get situated.
Should we talk about him while we wait?
Joe!
Hey!
Hello!
Joe, we just got finished doing our news, where we kind of talk about how our last week has gone, especially now in...
I can't take it anymore. Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, there's your face. Do you want to share how you're doing down in Alabama?
It's been really not too bad at all. I stocked up on enough groceries to last me for about a month and a half. I've been teleworking since March 12th. Haven't had any direct human contact since then. And my days are pretty well scheduled. I do 8 hours of work on my treadmill desk.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very cool. I need that.
It is one of the best investments I've made. So I don't do 8 hours of solid walking. I do an hour of walking, a couple minutes of stretching. I'll sit down for an hour and then I'll go back to the treadmill and I'll do like stretches and snacks in between.
For those people that are just listening and not watching, Joe has an actual treadmill on his computer workstation. Do you just do like 80,000 steps every day? Do you count?
It does have a little counter on it. And I average somewhere between 10 to 15,000 steps per day, which translates to, I don't know, it's like maybe 3 to 5 miles a day. And I'm doing like 2 miles an hour, 2.2 miles an hour, give or take, throughout the day. I have a little spreadsheet, which I keep because that's who I am.
Of course you do.
Of course I do.
So Joe DiNoto is a data scientist who has a bachelor's of science in mathematics from Penn State and a master's in teaching mathematics from the University of Pittsburgh. And he spent years supervising online advanced mathematics courses at Johns Hopkins Center and currently lives and works as a data scientist in Alabama.
He started juggling when he was 11 years old and can juggle up to 5 clubs or 7 balls, which is absolutely incredible. I'm excited to see this, some version of it shortly. And lastly, Joe was also involved in the 2016 Bernie Sanders campaign, volunteering in Iowa and Maryland. You wrote a little blurb, and I just want to read it because it's very, very well said, and I'm very interested in talking to you more about this, that Joe's current interests are around statistical literacy and data visualization, not just as something abstract, but as a real-world skill that he feels every citizen should understand on some level. He feels that if the average citizen were able to ask and pursue answers towards statistically relevant questions, then our society would be better able to make decisions collectively. I'm so on board with that.
Yeah.
We're so excited. That's our thing. Like, we're like so into facts. It's not even funny.
I'm glad to hear it. Glad to be in good company.
Thank you.
I feel like the elephant in the room. How did we get someone as accomplished as Joe DiNoto on Imaginary Friendcast? We go back a long way. Joe is actually the older brother to one of my best friends in the entire world. We grew up together just a few miles apart in northeastern Pennsylvania. So. Oh,
Anna DiNoto?
DiNoto.
I've followed what you guys have been doing for a while. Your world adventures. It's inspirational. It's entertaining. It's educational. I really enjoy what you're doing. So I'm happy to be here with you.
Aww.
Contribute.
It is educational. Let me wait. I just have to ask my 2 questions really fast because they're really, really important. Number 1, since you're from Alabama, we're assuming that you voted for that pedophile who almost won a couple of years ago.
Wait, no, I'm not from Alabama.
Oh, you're not, but you live in Alabama.
I just moved to Alabama in August.
Oh, so you weren't there when that pedophile almost won the election.
Roy Moore. You got to be more specific when you're talking about pedophiles these days.
in Alabama.
But no, I grew up. So I grew up with Anna, my sister, obviously.
Yeah,
my sister, and Aaron lived a few miles away. Anna and Aaron were like best friends since forever. So like I know Aaron through my sister Anna.
Okay, I didn't think about that. Sorry. And then that nullifies my next question, so we can continue on. So
it's all good. It's all good.
Okay, we'll just move on from Roy Moore. I feel like we don't have to stuck on that topic.
Not at all.
Weren't you kind of hoping you'd say, yeah, I voted for him? But anyways, keep going. Sorry, keep going.
That's not my style.
I really don't want to know anyone that's voted for him. But Joe, I kind of want to talk about juggling. We'll start light here.
Sure.
So I know you started when you were young, but what was the motivation and where are you now with it?
Oh man, so I don't really know what motivated me to start juggling, to be honest. I recall in 5th grade, I think there was a talent show, 5th grade or 6th grade. And I did this thing where like I got on stage and I balanced like a ruler on my finger and I was like flipping it around, doing all these like balance things with a ruler on my finger. And I don't know why, I'm a bored 5th grade kid. And then I remember, I don't know if this is really what happened, so long ago, that I heard there was someone in 6th grade who could juggle. And I was like, okay, I have to own this space of weird circus skills. So I decided to teach myself how to juggle. And I went about it the totally making finger quotes, wrong way. I learned the difficult way. It took me months to learn how to juggle. And then I just stuck with it. And as an 11-year-old, I had no intention whatsoever of being a fully grown man, still dedicating a significant chunk of my day-to-day life to juggling. It's been many things to me over the years: self-expression, exercise, a form of therapy, and so on. And now I'm using it as a way to, cope with the isolation, of course. It is a form of exercise. And it's been fun in the past month or so to get back on Instagram, or to get on Instagram and kind of reconnect with the juggling creative community, people who are pushing the boundaries.
Can you plug your Instagram so people can find you? Because the videos you're posting are really awesome.
Joe.DINOTO, Joe.DiNoto.
Easy.
Yeah, go
I'm
check
gonna
it.
go there now.
I have a question before you continue. What
Yeah,
was
I do
the
too.
wrong way to learn? And what's the right way to learn?
And how many hours a day are you currently devoting to it as an adult? Go ahead, go.
Okay. So I'll start with David's question, because that's the easiest one to answer. Nowadays, in the past month or so, I've probably been devoting upwards of 2 hours a day to practice. Not all at a single stretch. Like I said, I'll be on my treadmill for an hour. I'll stretch for a little. I might juggle for 5 minutes, and that kind of accumulates into a half an hour over a day. And then I'll have like an hour of space where it will be just juggle time, and I'll put on some music, and I'll kind of go through a sequence of moves that I want to work on or relearn. And that'll be about an hour of time each day, and that might go to like an hour and a half if I really get into what I'm doing. But under normal circumstances, I would try to practice 1 hour a day. And then Nathan, you had asked why was the way that I learned incorrect or more difficult, really? Couple reasons. Number one, I tried learning with tennis balls, which are terrible for learning. They're too light, they're too bouncy. They're not good for learning because they're just too difficult. And the other reason was the pattern that I was trying to do was that thing that almost everyone tries to do when they try to juggle. They throw one up in the air, and then they throw one directly across from one hand to the other really quick. That's called the shower pattern, and it's really a difficult and fast pattern involving two different kinds of throws, and it's not good for learning.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I can take 3 balls for maybe like 30 seconds and then I drop them. But when I was learning, that's exactly what I did. And I was trying to whip it to the other hand. It's just not how you're supposed to do it. So I totally.
So you guys were trying to make a total circle.
Yes.
Instead of doing the pattern where it kind of flows up this way. Or
correct. A circle instead of a figure 8. The figure 8 is the easier one.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That makes sense a lot. That totally makes sense.
Inspiration. Practicing anything for multiple hours a day is an inspiration. I think especially as adults, we don't leave time to do that. And I hear so many people talking about boredom nowadays. And to pick up any skill and practice it for a few minutes, let alone an hour or two, it's amazing how good you can get quickly if you're actually devoting the time. So my messy hair hat off to you.
Joe, you must not want to juggle some days or just like get bored with it though, right? Or if you do, how do you get through that and make yourself do it?
So I'll go with Aaron's question first and then yours. So the motivation I would share with people who are listening and watching is when you're picking up a brand new skill, something that you haven't done before, you have to approach it with the following mindset. And the mindset is, I'm a total beginner. I'm not going to be good at this at all. And I'm going to flounder around and it's going to feel worthless. And I'm not going to be anywhere near the level of the Instagram stars or the TikTok superheroes or whatever you've got online, right? You're just not, you're new. You have to think that with every day that I practice and every bit of time that I, put into this in a focused way, I will get better. And after a month or 2 months or 3 months of continual practice, I will start to have fluency in whatever it is I'm doing. If it's playing guitar, if it's playing drums, if it's running, or what have you. You have to believe that your accumulated efforts over time are going to leave you way better in the future than you are now. So Nathan asked about the days that you don't want to juggle, or the days that you don't want to pursue the things that are your hobbies or things that are important to you. And the brutally honest answer is there are days, and there have been months in my life when I just didn't juggle at all. I didn't touch a prop. And those were some of the unhappiest days or months really in my life, because I allowed that sense of depression, or whatever you want to call it, to overcome me.
Oh, wow.
It's real. Like, I wish I could say I juggle every single day, and I have since I was, but I haven't. I've been through some ups and downs in lives, and usually I find that the times when I'm not juggling for an extended period of time, like not even touching my props, like they're getting dust, those are usually the lowest points for me.
Wow.
So as I've gotten older, I try to think on that when I feel like, oh God, I really don't want to juggle today. Like, what am I even going to work on? Like, I'm just not feeling it. I'll do something. I'll try to do something, and make some sort of effort, even if it's 5 minutes, just doing like some basic stuff. Because otherwise that accumulation of negative time, or whatever you want to call it, starts piling up. And then you get to the point where it's like, oh, it's been 3 months since I've practiced. Now I'm losing all the things I used to have, and I don't want to work to get them back. So I keep that in my mind as I go forward. I try to
That's
do
cool.
a little.
And every time you feel better after?
Marginally, yeah. Or at least I don't feel worse. At least I don't feel worse, which is important. An important distinction.
Yeah, 100%.
I just want to say how awesome your previous answer was, and I think Aaron had something to add.
I was just going to say how relatable that is for so many people listening to this, especially now. You're interested in mathematics and data, and
Yes.
so much of this stuff that's really important and relevant to everything that's going on now.
Yikes.
What is your, from a scientific point of view, what is your take on everything that's going on? Will there be an end to all this madness?
I think so, yes. I mean, yes, and according to all the data I've seen, assuming we don't have any major F-ups, I think probably, hopefully, by the end of June or the beginning of July, we can start resuming life, finger quotes, as normal again. If you think of, again, this is hard for the people who can't watch, especially I don't have like a whiteboard or anything, but you've got kind of like a roller coaster shape where it goes all the way up and then it comes all the way down and flattens out on either end.
Yeah.
Right now on the roller coaster, we're probably about 2 or 3 weeks away from the tippy top of the roller coaster.
2 or 3 weeks still?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's what the data shows at this point. Assuming the data is accurate and assuming the models are good, the models seem to be all right, but models are dependent on whatever input you give them. But from what I can see...
That's assuming that we're all still hibernating for all this time.
Right. That's assuming that we maintain the social distance, that you wear the masks when you go out, and that people who are infected are able to get medical treatment. So a lot of big ifs going on.
Yeah. And how could we possibly know that we're getting the correct data at all?
That's another really good question. And the answer is that, we have the sources that we have. The CDC has been reliable for a long, long time on a lot of things. So I consider that a trustworthy source. A lot of the data is coming from individual hospitals that then report, as far as I understand, to the CDC. Again, I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a virologist. This is not my professional field. I'm reading all the different sources coming in. But from what I can see on the CDC and then applying like exponential models to it, we're probably about maybe 2 to 3 weeks away from the very top of the roller coaster, and then we're going to start to go back
Wait,
down.
did you apply exponential models to it?
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
There's a YouTube channel called, I think it's 1 Minute Physics or Minute Physics. And they have a video about how do you know we're defeating COVID-19. The YouTube channel's name is Minute Physics or 1 Minute Physics. I forget which it is.
Okay.
But if you go to that YouTube channel, there's a 7-minute video, and it's titled, how do you know we're defeating COVID-19? You'll see it's got like a graph, and it's got COVID-19 written on it.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That's a 7-minute video that I encourage everyone to block out 7 minutes of your day to just watch this video and not be distracted by anything else, because it kind of explains, when you're going up the roller coaster, how do you know that you're about to reach the top, or how do you know it's going to go all the way up even higher than you thought? And it breaks that down really, really nicely. And that'll help give you a framework for all the other articles and information you're going to read and see about the disease, because everything else is going to reference exponential curves and growth curves when there's this turning point. How do you know where it is in the model and so on? So it's a brilliant video.
I have a question for you. There are so many sources for all kinds of information, down from medical to political, and something that I struggle with, and I think a lot of our listeners struggle with as well, is how do we know when sources are trustworthy? They're all saying that they're using data and evidence, and is there a trick that we can use to know whether or not that's true and whether their data is accurate and trustworthy?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. It's a question of, statistical importance, of the utmost statistical importance is that question. And I guess the answer is, if you're asking yourself that question, you're already far ahead of the curve in terms of where most people are. It's important as you go and you read these articles to ask yourself, well, what is the source directly? Can I go directly to the fire hose of information, right?
Yeah.
If you're just taking it on someone's word, then, you're taking it on someone's word. But it's good to always look up the references. And from there, at least in terms of the mathematics, I'm able to do things most people probably can't do if you don't have a math background. I'm able to go to the sources, which anyone can do, but then I'm able to download the data myself and run it through my own models. And when I say my own models, what I mean is my own. I can put it in Microsoft Excel or RStats, and I can apply statistical math methods to it myself.
Nice.
And then I can match up what I'm seeing with what they're claiming. Right.
Have you come across anything recently where you were like, oh, this is bullshit? Like the things they were saying, that when you do your models, you found them out to not be true?
Well, yeah, early on when this thing was spreading, and the president was saying, it's 15 cases, it'll be gone. It's nothing to worry about. There's all the usual Trump is ignorant aside. But when I heard that, immediately I was like, oh my God, anyone with any knowledge of how diseases spread and exponential growth knows that is the opposite of what the truth is.
Yeah.
And it was extraordinarily frustrating to hear that. The man likes to make himself a hero, and
he does.
The easiest way to make yourself a hero in that circumstance is to be, I'm the guy who's going to save you from this thing. Right now, we're going to invoke the War Power Act to get the ventilators done. And right now, he could have done that. And then he'd be the hero. He'd be the hero. Even liberals would have to say, you got to give it to the guy. He brought those extra ventilators. I hate him in a million other ways, but at least he made the ventilators. He could have done that. He didn't do it. And it deeply disturbs me that's a singular leadership figure, and that the rest of the media didn't question him on it. Didn't anyway. So yeah, that's one of the more recent things. But in terms of the people who I follow on Twitter and on other social media and in publications, the data analysis is usually extraordinarily good. And I tend to put a lot of stock in what they say. And, like I said, the CDC is really good. I have issues with the way Washington Post and New York Times report some of their political opinions, to be honest with you. But their coverage of the virus in terms of the mathematical models they've presented are really good. And then there are other users I found on Twitter who've gone, I would say, a little bit deeper than Washington Post and New York Times, because they're Washington Post and New York Times are aiming for a broader audience. Some of the people I follow are much more statistically oriented.
So to move away from COVID a bit, but still stay in the statistical realm, what, since most people aren't going to have your math background, what are some of the things that you wish everyone learned or were taught to make us better at parsing information?
Western Wayne. That's my high school. I'm shaking my fists at the heavens because I didn't get a good education there. Although you went to that school and you turned out well, so I must have just.
So here's the thing about Western Wayne. This is I'll start with that and then I'll go to Nathan's question. When I felt the same way for a long time because I went to Western Wayne and then I went to Penn State University on like scholarship for being good in academics. Yay me, go me, right? And then when I got into my second year at Penn State, deep into my mathematics and physics major, I started being in classes with people who went to governor's school in Philadelphia. These are usually the children of fairly well-to-do parents and highly educated parents who sent their kids to governor's school. And I realized that they had so much more educational opportunity than I ever did. And I was feeling dumb for a long time, like, oh my God, why am I so dumb? But then I realized, like, wait a minute, these guys had like this elite education and I'm coming in here from like Western Wayne level education. So I felt the same way for a really long time. And then there was a year or two ago, maybe three, I don't know, a while ago, there was a great article in either Washington Post or New York Times, their data analysis team did the outcomes of people who grew up, and it was by county, all over the United States, for people who ended up making more or less than their parents. And it was like a red to green or something like that. Green means you made more and red means you made less. When you look at that map and you look at Pennsylvania, there is a clear outlier for people who end up making more than their parents. And I kid you not, it's Wayne County, Pennsylvania.
Really?
I kid you not.
Why?
Wayne County, Pennsylvania. That's the question I've been asking myself. And the answer to that question, as far as I've been able to tell, just contextualizing things, is because Western Wayne, if you recall, you could really call it a pillar of the community, in the sense that we had a lot of teachers who were there for generations and leadership figures within the school who were there for generations, right?
Yeah.
So even though we didn't have the best of the best because we were a relatively poor and rural school district, we had a lot of very compassionate and knowledgeable people within our school, within our gifted programs, and even like our librarians and some of our art and math teachers and shop teachers, which was still a thing. And I think that combination helped people who went through Western Wayne to have a lot of stability and to have, frankly, a lot of relatively useful life skills by the time they came out, that set them further apart than schools which had certainly a lot of turnover. So that was a long answer to Aaron's remark.
Really interesting. I had no idea that was.
Remind me to pull that up, because
that.
I'll find that and I'll send it to you.
That's fascinating. I think that analysis of that kind of structure for poor schools where you have that, because I feel like we had that where I grew up a bit. I don't think that's as relevant now or as often. Or is
right.
If Wayne County is the outlier, then it just makes you feel terrible for every other school, especially now. I feel like it'd be even worse now.
So Nathan, just for some context, Nathan grew up in a similar area to ours. It was more of a small town, more compact, but very similar. Western Pennsylvania, rural. So he has a similar experience than what we did. David, your hand up.
Couldn't it also just be that your parents are really dumb and that everyone easily excelled them?
I mean, it could also be that you're living in a very poor area, and is it tracking people who, like children who stayed in the area or left? Like if it's tracking people who left, they may have gone to places where they could make greater income.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that question. That's a really good question.
One other short thought about that. I have also thought about how our school district, for an example, it's very incestuous in that you grow up there and then you go back and you teach there, and then their kids go there and then their kids teach there, and it just keeps happening. It's a cycle. And I always thought of that as a negative because there's less of a flow of new information coming in. Whereas if you go to, like when I went to college, just the teachers from all over the world and all over the country, and with all these different ideas and perspectives, and it was so inspiring. And that's one thing that I felt like we really lacked, because everyone is so homogenized. Everyone's the same. Everyone's from the same area and thinks the same way and looks the same way in our case too.
Yeah, truly. I do have views on that, but I forget the question Nathan originally asked me. So,
We'll go back to my question. What are a few skills that people could use now or train themselves now, or that schools should implement that would be useful for making us smarter?
Wow, we got so sidetracked from that.
Yeah.
It's good to go down the rabbit hole.
It comes down to skepticism, but not cynicism. It's a really razor thin line these days, I feel, between the two. Skepticism is extremely important. When you read anything, you have to ask yourself, can I verify this information elsewhere? Is the direct link to the information available in the article? 50% of people have been cured by drinking lemon juice. Well, wait, okay, so that sounds great, but really, like that but really is something that we should get in the habit of doing. And I think, I would issue a challenge to everyone listening and watching right now is, take the news information source that you trust the most, and then ask yourself, when was the last time I seriously questioned what I'm reading or hearing?
Every day.
And you don't have to. Questioning something doesn't mean you're gonna disbelieve and disregard it. It just means saying, oh, you're telling me this information, but I want to double check. I want to trust, but I'm going to verify. That's kind of the expression I think they use in intelligence. Trust, but verify what they're saying.
A healthy level of skepticism, would you say?
Yes, a healthy level of skepticism. Sure. And then mathematically, there are a couple of good statistical questions. First is, what's the sample size? And from where are you drawing the sample? 75% of people are excited to vote about Joe Biden. Really? Where are we getting this sample from? Because the statement by itself is a true statement. If you take people who are 65 and over calling on a landline from 2 months ago, it's a true statement if you have all those caveats. And I think the important thing is when you read those articles is to say, where is the sample size? What are the crosstabs? In other words, what's the age breakdown? How many people are we asking? When was the study conducted? How was the question asked? You'll see, I see adverts on YouTube because I watch YouTube on my phone, ad blocker. And it's like, are you for socialism? Huh? Well, it's like, well, yeah, when you phrase it like that, the answer is going to be no, even if you are for socialism. But if you phrase it like, hey, 10 million people just lost their jobs. Do you think it might be time to decouple health insurance from employment and consider some sort of single payer system like every other nation? That's a different way of phrasing the question. And if you ask that, if you phrase the same question in different ways to the same people, you'll get different statistical results. And as the consumer of information, I think it's important that we train ourselves to say, well, what's the sample size? How was the question being asked? who was it being asked to? When was it asked? Before or after this particular event? You know, those kind of questions you should always be firing at any sort of poll result you see. And it's a habit. It's a habit of mine. It's one that I do automatically because this is my life. This is what I do. I study mathematics and stats. But for the average person, write them down and keep it with you on a Post-it.
We obviously agree with you 100%. And I just got a signal from our station manager, Gus. He's in love with you. He's going to ask you to marry him. But this is my problem. You're in Alabama in the Bible Belt.
Mm-hmm.
How many people there are actually going to do that?
I don't know that you can point to a single state in that way, right? So
well, I'm just assuming Christians, because Christians I've talked to are like, no, Trump is doing great. He has the highest ratings ever. Like, they don't care about evidence. And when you give them evidence, they're like, it's a lie, it's a lie.
Right.
So how many people, like, you know the people there, we don't. Like, do you see it happening there for most people, or?
Well, I moved to a particular region of Alabama, right? So we'll apply some of those statistical questions as we answer this question, right?
Great.
So where did I move in Alabama, right? I didn't move to, I moved to Huntsville, right? Which is in the northern part of Alabama. And Huntsville in particular is a city that was built by the space program, which is like a very high concentration of aerospace engineers.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that.
Physicists. Yeah. And in Huntsville, there is a significant portion of the population who's able to think critically in that way.
Wow.
Right? Now, just like any other major metro area that, you know, has an educated center, once you leave the Tootsie Roll Pop of that, you're in the void, and you kind of enter into like a Northeast PA kind of place where people just kind of accept what they see on television and tend to have a very cynical view of the world.
Or Northwestern PA.
Or Northwestern, which is the one I've never been to the state. So, you know, and also I've only been here since August 2019. I haven't had a chance to really explore because as soon as I got here, I was networking and trying to find work and so on. So I can't really say that I know Alabama very well, but I feel I've lived in enough places around the United States to know that if someone's only getting 30 minutes or an hour of cable news, they're much less likely to be able to question things because they're just not thinking in that way. Reaching them is a big question. How do you do it, and how do you effectively do it? Also, I want to mention, I tried my very best to take an optimistic view of things. And when I look at election results in terms of turnout, the primary elections, which are like the semifinals to the November election, usually 80% of people do not vote in that primary election phase. 80% of people do not vote, roughly. So when you're talking about a primary election, the reason you have such unpopular candidates in November is because 80% of the people have, I think, been demoralized and don't bother in the primaries.
Demoralized. Exactly.
David's shaking his fist. Joe,
but it's true. Yeah.
I think this is a really great opportunity to kind of transition into what you've done. Your support of Bernie, kind of your history in the campaign, and what you think it is moving forward and now. Like, what is his future?
I wish I had happy news to report on the future of the campaign. From the sources that I follow and some of the people I know back in Maryland, there's not a lot of encouraging news. And what I mean is the following. Now the iron is hot, so to speak. And now is the time to organize nationally in the way that Martin Luther King had wanted to do right before he was shot, when he was talking about a poor people's march and a poor people's movement. Now in American, right now is the time to do that. And it's my understanding that Bernie Sanders has within his campaign a lot of people from the more conservative side of the Democratic Party who've worked on the conservative side, who are holding him back from calling that organization into being. And it on an emotional level, it's really painful to not see that happening. Because right now we need a leader with millions and millions of people who are ready to go and energized to say, guess what? I'm going to Congress on Monday and I'm going to say $20 an hour minimum wage. Everybody gets $2,000. Rent mortgages are suspended. And every Amazon employee, every Walmart employee, every restaurant, every McDonald's employee is going to go on strike on Monday. And we'll do it for 12 hours. And if there's no deal at the end of that, we'll do it for another 12 hours. That's what we need.
Wow. Ooh,
And
I'm glad you brought this up. Have you sat down and figured out how we'd be able to pay for all the stuff that Bernie Sanders promises? You have?
First, so yes, and also he's not promising anything.
Oh,
there's a difference between saying, I promise you elect me, we'll do it. That's a promise.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between that and what Bernie is saying is that we need millions of people standing together, fighting back against, the man, as it were, right?
Yeah.
He's saying that if you can get that movement together, you can do what the abolitionists did, you can do what women's suffrage did, you can do what the labor movement did, you can do what the civil rights movement did. You can make demands on power by leveraging them in the bank account, as it were.
Yeah.
Right. And it's been so difficult to not see Bernie do this in this moment, because now is the time when the nation is basically on its knees and it's depending upon, the grocery store worker, the McDonald's employee, the Amazon employee to keep the country running.
Yeah.
If all of those people were to just say, "No, we're just not going to show up on Monday until we get these demands," we'd get those demands really damn quickly. That's what I believe. But paying for it, yes. For it, yes. And the most important one, I'll do this real quick, is single payer Medicare for all. It is less expensive than the current system. So when you say, how do we pay for it? What you're really saying is, how do we pay for something that's less expensive than what we're already doing?
I believe that.
No, that's one thing. But what I've said before, and you can answer this, every time I've seen the minimum wage go up, the cost of living went up above it. Right. So if we threw everything up to $15 an hour, I just feel like the cost of living would go up, and their $15 an hour would be worth what they're getting paid now. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, no, I'd say you're correct, unless.
Did you hear it? Wait, did you hear him? Did you guys hear him? All right, keep going.
Yeah, let's hear the comment.
Keep going.
Yeah, well, there's a but comma to that.
Yeah.
So everything is the way it is because of the way the laws are written, right?
Yeah.
Like the laws of economics were not written in the stars, so to speak, right? They're written by people.
Yeah.
So if you put the minimum wage increase up, then you write a law saying that your landlord can't all of a sudden jack up your rent accordingly so that he absorbs all of that increase.
Yeah.
You can write the laws to say, if the minimum wage goes up, then we're going to stabilize the price of groceries and gasoline and other essentials. That's all. Remember, the laws are arbitrary. They're written. When you go to another country, the laws are different. Not because the laws of the universe are different over there, because people wrote them differently.
Yeah.
So the thing that initially attracted me to Bernie was when he had articulated that point by saying, the problems that we face, by and large, are the result of human decisions.
100.
Right?
100.
And the solutions to the problems we face are also dependent on human decisions. So that, two-sided coin, but you need a movement. You need a movement of millions of people, unified, standing together and making demands on power.
And unfortunately, right now, Bernie is one of the few people who have the megaphone that could reach that many people.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Then you end up with what happened with the Amazon employees last week, who in one location decided to strike, and then just the lead guy got fired.
They squashed it.
Not that I want what's going on now to benefit anyone in particular at all. But given what's happening and what people need and what our country needs, what the economy needs, they're all things that are very Bernie. And can this not be a benefit to his campaign, to his movement? Like, people are seeing now how this stuff would directly benefit them and their families. Like, how can this not push him forward a little bit?
Yeah, what's going on with him? Who's he owned by?
I think honestly, I don't know. I don't think he's not owned in the typical sense of, you know, Mitch McConnell or Paul Ryan or whoever it is, you know, having corporate donors funding their campaigns from fossil fuels and from the banks and so on. He's not owned in that sense.
Yeah.
I think he has this outdated sense of decorum from like the 1970s or something, which he's carried with him this whole time. And, you know, I think that's also part of his character. And also remember, you know, he's always been gaslit his entire career. And anytime you stick your head up, the media is going to squash him back down. And I think, I don't know, I'm speculating on what's going on inside his head and what's going on at the highest level of his campaign. But I think what's happening is people are telling him, you know, if you call for this big old strike, you know, every news station from Fox to MSNBC are going to set their laser beams on you and say you are ruining the country and you're causing.
He will be called a villain for sure. Yeah.
They'll vilify him and they'll crucify him through the media. And I frankly would think at this point he'd be like, and you've been doing it the whole time. Like, well, you know,
does Bernie still have a chance? Yes or no?
Yes, absolutely yes.
Good.
The mathematics are clear. 27 states, more than half of the states have not voted.
Wow.
Okay.
27.
That's a lot.
So how do we tell him to get his shit together?
Acting like it's over.
Yeah.
43% of the remaining delegates have not been assigned. That's almost half of the delegates. More than half the states, almost half the delegates.
So how do we tell Bernie to get his shit together then?
I don't know. Tweet at him. Find the people in his campaign.
I'm good at tweeting.
But also, I mean, for real, talk to your friends and family, because what we have to do is counter what they're hearing on the television.
I don't know that we can. You're looking at 3 people whose parents voted for Trump.
Right. So that's where I would say, you know, one of the big pickups that I've got from working in the Bernie campaign is understanding that 80% of people do not vote in the primary election. When you find yourself talking to someone who definitely knows who they're going to vote for in the primary, you shake their hand, and you say, have a nice day. It was great talking to you, because your time and energy is better spent talking to a non-voter.
Oh.
That's the strategy. Don't waste your time and don't waste your energy. You only have so much of it. If you find that one person's like, I'm definitely voting for Trump, well, y'all have a nice day. I got to go find one of the 80% of people who's not going to vote to counter your vote.
Yeah. Because
you could spend all day and all night yelling at that one person, and there's 50 people who you haven't spoken to. That's the real deal. So when I talk to my mom about it, I'm like, I love you. Let's talk about a million other things because you're my mom and our time is precious. And then I'll spend my political time elsewhere.
There's one thing I do that I can give you a tip when talking to your mom. What you do is when she's not listening or she's disagreeing, you just smack her right across the face. Smack her and smack her.
All right, what's your question?
So, yeah.
David, what's your next question?
Yeah.
Oh God, I have a million girls. Okay, Isaac Newton or Euclid?
Ooh, good question. Good question. Oh man, that's a good question.
Really put him on the spot.
I can't pick between the two. I can talk to you about why I love each of them, but I can't choose between the two. I'm sorry.
You have feelings of love for both of them?
Yeah.
Well, they're trailblazers. I mean, they did things that I wouldn't have thought. Here, I have another follow-up question. If you were in their position, do you think you could have thought up what they thought up?
No. Have you ever watched A Beautiful Mind?
No.
Yeah, the movie. So in A Beautiful Mind, the main character spends the first half of the movie or so mourning over the fact that he can't find an original idea. And when I first watched the movie, I was like, what the hell is this guy going on about? And then as I got older, I realized it is really difficult to come up with original ideas. And what Isaac Newton and Euclid did was lay the foundations upon which everything we know about the universe is laid. Like they had that little concrete thing, and they just poured it all out there and smoothed it all over so that we could build on top of it. And I'm a guy laying bricks in the corner. I'm not the one laying the foundations.
That's why I love Einstein so much, because Einstein said scientists that make breakthroughs don't think logically. They unhinge their brain. They think in ways that other people think are insane. Because a lot of people go around thinking like, oh, you have to think logically. No, you have to think way outside of what's real to be a breakthrough scientist.
Yeah,
right?
To come up to be a good theoretical scientist these days, you have to have a foundation of knowledge in your subject, and you have to be able to really think creatively. It's a very creative process. There was a novelist who said, I would have been a mathematician, but I wasn't creative enough. And this novelist wrote dozens of books. Wow. It's a creative act, and it's very difficult to do. And in terms of my skills, I'm not claiming I could have invented calculus. I don't think I could have done it.
Yeah. My one regret in life is that I didn't learn math better, because it is the language of science, 100%. Okay, I have another question for you. Oh, sorry, go ahead, yeah?
I have good YouTube channels for you. I'll connect with you after the meeting.
Oh, okay, awesome. And does it annoy you that in Europe, instead of saying math, they say maths?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. In fact, I like it that way.
Oh, really?
Because math, singular, implies that math is this one thing. Maths, plural, implies that it's a whole bunch of different things. And I think that's closer to what it actually is. There are many areas of maths, and they apply to all different areas of life. And so for me, it just seems more natural to call it maths, like the sciences. There's many different kinds of science, right?
That's true. That's true. It's a sciences. So which is your favorite field of maths, and which is your least favorite field of maths?
Now that I can answer. So my least favorite is probably real analysis. Real analysis basically says you're allowed to do calculus. Okay, that's real analysis. Books are devoted to it. It's important, but it's just my least favorite. It's a bunch of identities. It's a bunch of abstract stuff that doesn't move me spiritually on any level. Not saying it's bad, it's just my least favorite. My favorite, that's like picking kind of a favorite child. But I have really become enamored with the mathematics of modeling and simulation, where you have a huge data set and you want to make predictions based off of that data set, and all the different ways you can slice and dice and rack and stack the data. That is something I've become very interested in lately.
That's awesome. Do you guys have any more questions? I have a lot more.
Joe, honestly, I feel like we could just talk for hours and hours about stuff. Would love to pick your brain on everything that's going on in this world.
Can we book you at a later date?
I'd be more than happy to. I'm enjoying the conversation.
Awesome.
So yeah,
awesome.
Sure.
I think we should watch you juggle.
Yeah, let's
Oh yeah, juggle.
Oh wow, look at he's all prepared.
Oh wow, look at this.
Here's the juggling area.
All right.
This is my happy space. This is where I go.
That's your happy space.
He's got 3 pins in his hand now.
Yeah, so
all right.
some basic club stuff.
Juggling 3 pins.
Well, it's just like, yeah, okay.
Oh, under his leg now.
Oh wow.
That just looks like
sound.
that just looks from a distance like chaos. Like, how is that even?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that! Now they're not spinning anymore.
Oh my god! Wow.
Are they the same weight as real bowling pins?
Are they?
Oh, no.
No, yeah, these are
much lighter.
absolutely.
Ooh, it looks like there's some nicks on there. They've been dropped once or twice.
Oh wow, he's got more. Now what are you gonna do?
Oh, let me show you something very special, very historical. These
It's got
are the
5.
5 tennis balls that I learned how to juggle with when I was 10. I kept them
Oh.
ever since I was a child.
Wow.
I couldn't even do that. What you're doing right now, just holding them in that Olympic pattern. I couldn't even do that.
David, you can't hold multiple balls at once?
I can't. Aaron, will you teach me how to juggle balls?
Anytime, David.
All right, go
But
ahead.
after this,
Sorry, sir. Go
once
ahead.
we can.
Oh, wow.
He's just juggling
Yeah,
5
there you
tennis
go.
balls now. It looks like it's at super speed, but I think
It
he's
does.
just doing it normal speed.
Oh, wow. And there you are in
Yeah,
his hand.
you didn't change the speed? Wow. And then he just stops and holds. Yeah.
Okay, now what do we got?
I'll try to juggle these close to the camera
There's 3 white balls now.
here.
Okay, we got regular juggling going on. 3 balls. 3 balls. Oh, now he's like,
Flipping
Oh, wow.
underhand.
What's that? What's he doing?
This is called Mill's Mess.
He's juggling in a mill's nest, and it doesn't look real at all.
no, it looks like
almost-
you have octopus arms.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it looked like the
Whoa.
balls were floating.
Oh, now he's flipping the ball around with his hand. Wait, that's what he's doing the whole time.
I don't even know how to
You gotta see the
describe.
juggling because it doesn't look real.
Oh, look at that. Now there's, I don't know. Yeah, you
Yeah.
listeners are really missing out.
You
You
just
don't
have to go
look.
to his Instagram page and watch all this
Sorry for
magic.
all the people at home who don't have.
No, it's their fault for not tuning in on
they
video.
can go to the video.
Yeah, go to the video. Go to the video.
1 second.
What else?
Oh,
What else?
I think
What's
he's
he doing
taking a.
now?
Is he taking a
he's
bathroom break?
He's getting chainsaws.
He's got to fill him up with gasoline.
What is it?
My ball sock.
Oh, he's got a sack
Ball sack?
full of
Okay,
balls.
Sock, ball sock.
Taking one out.
Oh,
Oh, the clear ones.
What is it?
It's like David Bowie
It's like
style.
he's got a.
Super Bowl.
Oh,
It's
he's
a clear acrylic ball.
he's
I
making.
don't know how well that's coming across. on the
Perfectly.
It
He's,
looks like a giant marble.
He's making it float.
No, it's clear. Okay, because it looked like a cat's eye. What is he doing? What is this called?
screen. This is called contact juggling.
I love
His
this.
hands are moving, but the ball's not moving. Oh, now the ball's moving and his hands are moving.
And if I remember correctly, those are glass. They're heavy, right?
These ones are, he said this one's.
Acrylic.
They're
Yeah.
acrylic. Okay.
So it's a very hard kind of plastic.
Wow, look at that.
Wow, it's just balancing Oliver's arms. That
This
is
thing. What is this called
surreal.
again?
This is contact juggling.
Look, his hands are moving, but the ball's not moving. It looks like a bubble just floating in front of him.
Yeah, if anyone's ever seen David Bowie in Labyrinth, there's a scene where he contact juggles.
Does he?
Oh, he does that? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not Bowie himself.
Right.
Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering. I was impressed.
A guy named Michael Motion.
Now he's just doing his fingers. It's at the tip of his fingers, and
Whoa.
it's just floating in front of him, and his hands are moving like crazy.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes, that's
Impressive.
contact juggling.
Oh, now he's
Uh-oh,
got,
we got
four
four.
of them.
Wow. Uh-oh.
I can do that.
You must have really strong fingers.
I can't do that.
You can't do that.
No, what he's doing right now? No.
Oh, well then what's wrong with you, David?
What's it called?
This is contact juggling still, I think.
Yeah,
What is
so he
the
has
contact
two in
juggling?
one hand and he's spinning them around each other.
I want you
Now
to
he has
do,
three
when
in
we
one
have
hand.
you back on, Joe, can we have you juggle and do a monologue at the same time?
Sure, I can talk and juggle at the same time.
Oh, wow,
No,
he's
like
got
a
four
like
in
a
one hand.
Dramatic monologue.
Oh, dramatic reading.
Yeah.
Joe, you're not busy enough.
Oh, look at that.
Oh. Wait, what's this? Now he has like in
Four.
a pyramid. Do the one where you that he has it. He has four, but he has three as the base of the pyramid, and one just hovering above it. How do you do that?
You take three like
Oh.
the
You just take three and put one on top. Yeah.
the other one on top.
Pretty simple, David.
This is
And this
like,
is a trick that took me months to learn how to do. It's really difficult because as soon as you put the one on top,
Oh, yeah.
right, like my fingers are holding these two, but this one back here doesn't have anything holding on to it. So for that brief moment where that that ball is between the pinky finger and the thumb, there's nothing touching it. There's no hand holding it in place. So you just have to like really learn how to do this technique. Otherwise, it'll push it down and roll down your arm.
It's incredible. It looks like you're just holding a machine in your hand.
Oh, thank you. That's kind of the desired effect.
Nice. And so how long have you been doing it?
I started this when I was 17 or 18.
Hey, he's got 3 pins again. They're orange.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now I'm juggling orange clubs. So you might be able to hear the percussive.
Oh, they're,
Yeah.
they're clubs, not pins. Oops.
How high are your
Oh,
ceilings?
wait. Oh, wow.
Well, Joe, that was amazing. It was so good to have you on as a
Yeah,
guest.
that's awesome.
Jeez. So we definitely need to have you back on in the future for sure.
Yeah, we have so many things more we need to talk about.
Yeah, my YouTube channel is Math Teacher 1729. Math Teacher.
Teacher 1729.
Excellent.
That's your
One word.
YouTube, right?
Or if you just Google my name, Joe DiNoto, and Juggling, my YouTube channel should appear. Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a real pleasure. I've really enjoyed our conversation. You guys are a lot of fun. And I hope you continue to stay healthy and keep putting out amusing content. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Thank you so much. So good.
Shut up, I'm frozen. All right, go ahead. Yeah, so go ahead.
Joe DiNoto, that was amazing. He's a good guest. We'll have him on again. Make sure you check out Unimaginary Friend on Facebook or Instagram to check out Total Trip Domination. That'll be playing all this week,
And to find this video,
of course. And yeah, David.
Lesbian. Lesbian? Where does that come from, bitch?
Lesbian. 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 Lesbian.